Here at Unlimited Cosmetology, we are now offering our aesthetic program and services to the public. Please come down and enjoy a massage or facial. We offer waxing, lashes, and brow services. Call and set up your appointment today. Services start at 5 p.m. We're located at 102 Broad Street in Hattiesburg.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today on Lifting You Higher TV Ministries. It's just such a blessing to come before you. And I'm excited every time I get before the camera, but I'm really excited today because I have a good friend who's going to be my guest today. We're going to be talking about some things that I think you're going to be interested in. So I want you to sit back, relax, and watch us. And if you have a friend, call your friend and tell them to watch us today on Lifting You Higher TV Ministries. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce to you and present to you Dr. Robert Thompson. He's an assistant professor of business at William Carey University with 30 plus years of hospitality industry work experience in destination markets such as Las Vegas, Nevada, Beverly Hills, California, and Biloxi, Mississippi. He has held positions of hotel and resort general manager, cruise director, country club manager, director of development, and capped his industry career with a 20-year stint in corporate marketing with Wyndham Worldwide Incorporated. One of Dr. Thompson's former professors made the following statement about who he is, and I quote, he said this: Robert cares deeply about upholding his responsibility to others. He sees his work as a means of making a positive impact that goes far beyond personal ambition. He sees at the same time both the big picture and the individual, unquote. At this time, I want to present to you Dr. Robert Thompson. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you so much.
We're so glad to have you. We talked earlier about, you and I were discussing about eating, and we came up with this program. So you made a statement, and the statement that you made is that eating is a common denominator among people. Let's talk about that.
It brings people together. You know, once we nourish our body, it replenishes our soul. The way I would like to explain it is when I worked with Wyndham Corporate, I was the regional director, and I would take my board of directors out to dinner the night before our meeting, and we would go out and we'd have our dinner, and somehow I got the reputation of being the one that wanted dessert. The reason I would order dessert is because that's when the conversation starts. And so I would always order a variety of desserts, whether people wanted them or not, because many times people say, oh, no, I don't want the dessert, I'm fine, whatever. You order the dessert,
Put it before them.
Put it before them, they will eat it.
Yeah.
So we just did a variety of different, I would always select a variety and ask people and get their buy-in as to what they wanted. But then we would get that, and I would ask the server to bring a variety of forks and spoons and such, and we would just all, as a group, partake together.
Dig in together.
Yes, and then once you start, everybody starts. And that is, like I said, is when the conversation starts, because it connects people. It brings them together. We're sharing together. And it's the same thing that Jesus did with his disciples.
He did.
He was sharing with them. He was educating them. And that's one thing that I think people have really gotten away from.
Yes,
is that aspect of the meal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and Jesus ate with his disciples at some important times, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of those times that were so important when he ate with them.
Yeah, when we talk about the food, one of the first things, of course, is our Last Supper, right? That was an important time. He also showed up after the resurrection, where he was feeding the disciples on the Sea of Galilee. He fed them breakfast.
Right.
Okay. There's times throughout the Bible, on many occasions, you and I were talking about this, where Jesus would go to the home of
Yes.
people that were tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes and such, that fraternizing with them caused an uproar.
Right.
Many of the people were
Judged
like,
him.
yes, I cannot
Yes.
believe you're doing this. But what he was doing was showing, he was using food as a means of showing that his kingdom is inclusive.
Wow.
There's room for
Nobody is
everyone.
left out.
No, we all fall short.
Food was a drawing card, wasn't it?
It absolutely was.
Drew people together, and then he'd have a chance to minister and show love.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so is that what we do when we come together? We show love to each other?
We do, but research shows that all of our chemicals, the positive chemicals, increase as a result of sharing food.
Wow.
We don't often realize that. It's the same thing when a mother is nursing her baby, right? It's the same concept. One thing I would say when we talk about families is that there's research will show that parents will say about 80% of all the parents that have been, according to research, will say that family time, family meal time is of high importance.
Yes.
And then there was a recent study by Harvard that showed that teenagers, 80% of teenagers will say that they are more prone to speak and talk to their parents during family mealtime. But according to research, we only eat as a family about 35% of the time.
Wow.
So that's a missed opportunity
It is.
to connect with those teenagers. They need that outlet,
Right.
and you need to connect with them.
Yes.
You don't want that time period. There's so much noise in the world, and we don't need to lose them even before they leave the house.
Absolutely. So when we eat together as a family, we're able to communicate. They are able to talk about their day, and they know that their parent are listening to them.
That's right.
It's important for us to listen to our children, and they know what the expectations are when they listen to what the parents say.
And research shows too that during the pandemic, families were spending more time together and eating together.
And it made a difference, didn't
But
it?
how quickly we forget.
We forget. We sure do.
Yeah.
So, getting back to times when Jesus ate, he didn't just eat with the disciples, he ate with other people as
That's
well.
right. That's
You
right.
mentioned he ate with sinners, and I think it was Matthew was a tax collector, and he went home with Matthew and he ate, and the sinner woman came, and she washed his feet with her tears and dried them with her hair, and people criticized that.
And Zacharias coming out of the sycamore tree, right? He said, "Tonight I'm going to dine with you." Same thing. And we can even get into, on the mountain with
Right.
the 2 fish and the
5 loaves.
5 loaves of bread, and how that is community.
Yes.
Right? It brings everyone together as one.
Right.
That's where people are just missing the understanding of how important food is.
It is. And it's like you say, it's a common denominator. It's something we all have to have. We have to eat food. So we may as well use that as a time of connecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look back at family reunions,
Yes.
the way they used to be,
Yes.
when people would actually prepare and they're putting their love. I mean, that's always the big joke,
Right.
right? They put a little bit of love in it.
In
That's
it,
why it tastes so good.
Yes.
But that is the truth. I mean, because they have that servant heart, and they get a lot of pleasure out of serving
Right.
and preparing that food for their loved ones.
That's exactly right. And when we have events now like weddings, we eat.
Absolutely.
Even after funerals, we have a repast.
Jesus' first miracle, right? That was a celebration.
Turning water
at
to wine.
the
That was a
wedding.
time to eat.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And he had gone somewhere once on a boat. When he got back home, he ate then with the disciples. So he used eating as an opportunity to
Yes.
connect with people.
Absolutely.
He didn't eat because he was hungry all the time, did he? He was
No.
not always hungry.
Well, I mean, in the desert, right? 40 days.
They were hungry.
40
he
days,
was
he
hungry then
fasted
fasted
for 40
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I can't fast for 40 days.
And he was tempted, but he still didn't. He didn't.
That's
he
right.
didn't eat. Yeah.
That's right.
And so Jesus ate grain in the grain field. He was criticized for that. I don't care what he did. He was
They
criticized.
were going to criticize him for everything.
They were.
It didn't matter.
They were. But you went back. You said something a minute ago, and I want to go back to that.
Okay.
he was inclusive. He wanted to include everybody. What does that say to us today, Dr. Thompson?
Well, that's one reason why I love Grace Temple. I mean, I'm not trying to, you know.
You're not trying to put a plug in
Yeah,
for our
I'm not trying to
church.
put in a plug for the church, but I love it. I sit there in amazement every Sunday, and I just look at our congregation, and I think, why can't every church be like this on Sunday morning?
Let's tell them about our church.
Why?
We have people of all caliber.
Absolutely. And I sit there and I watch the hugging and the laughter and the, you know, the families, and everyone loves genuinely
The
loves one
camaraderie,
another.
yes.
It's not, you know, out of, I've got to show, you know,
Right.
a little bit of compassion or something. No, I would say everyone genuinely loves one another.
What does that demonstrate to other people?
To me, it just it makes you want to go there. It makes you want to be part of it. I mean, look at every time we have an induction ceremony for new members, it's not one or two people.
No,
I mean,
it's a bunch.
All the years that I've been
Yeah,
going, it is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and people want to go where they fit in. You don't have to worry about, because I'm of this denomination background or social or economic background, I won't fit in. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so that makes a difference too.
It's refreshing.
It
is
is
very refreshing.
It is. So let's talk about some of the other occasions when we eat. We talked about family reunions. We talked about weddings. We eat after funerals.
And see, that's another thing. Comfort, right? It's
It's a-
food. My mother used to say that a lot. Comfort food. Soup was
Yeah.
her comfort food. And that wasn't a term that was used a lot back then, but it's used a lot now.
Comfort
And-
food.
but it again, that is another component of food. And if you look at when we're going through difficult, challenging times, we do divert back to certain foods that make us, either takes us back to our youth or ties us back to our parents or an experience when we were younger growing up. But it can be very reassuring
It
to
can be.
have
It can be.
that food.
Yeah, and let's allude to the fact that just because people are working and they are busy, they have jobs, can't they find a time when they can draw families to come together as a family to eat? Don't you think they can work that into their
They need
schedules?
to, because there's so much. I mean, Pastor was talking about this, you know, with the cell phones. There's so many bad paths that are available through that one device, and we've got to be mindful of that. And when we sit down as a family, I would encourage everyone, put the phones away.
Yes, I agree. I second that.
And when you go out to dinner, I see people in wonderful restaurants, and I'm thinking, this is a wonderful experience, but everyone is head down and they're focused on their phone. And it's all family members. It's not just the young people.
No, it's the
So
adults. It's everybody.
everybody's guilty.
When you get on the plane, it's the same thing. When you're at the doctor's office, it's the same thing. Don't you think if we would put the phones down, people in general, when they are in a setting together, would talk more, communicate more?
They would. I was talking to one of my colleagues, and she said that she went somewhere and she forgot her phone, left it at the house. And she said, you know, once I got where I was going, I didn't miss it. You know, and it opens up the opportunity for you to engage and start talking to people.
Right.
We don't need these devices as much as we're addicted. And I don't think we realize that we are addicted.
Because you feel lost when you don't have your phone. I'm guilty.
I'm guilty as well. I think everybody is.
And even shutting down the television sometimes and just having some quiet time with family.
But even when we are alone, we need to sit down at a table and designate that time and not just eat on the run. We're missing that opportunity, because that's self-care.
Yes.
And we need to take care of ourselves.
Yes. Just eat slowly.
Eating on the run is not healthy.
It's not. It's not. And most of the time, if you're eating on the run, you're not eating healthy food.
Most of the time,
because you're
no.
getting it from fast food or whatever.
Processed
Yes,
something.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break, but we want you to come back because we have much more to talk about today concerning the importance of eating together. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you are being blessed by this program, we need your financial support at this time. Please consider becoming a partner or making a donation to this ministry. Donations can be made using PayPal at Hannah Hopkins Ministries or by mailing your donation to P.O. Box 17405, Hattiesburg, Mississippi 39404. We appreciate your financial support. Please pray about being a part of spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ during this crucial time by making your donation today. If you have a prayer request, please call us. If you don't get an answer, please leave your name and number and someone will call you back. For a donation of $10 or more, we would like to send you a copy of our signature keychain. For a donation of $20 or more, a copy of our book, Speeches for Any Occasion. We accept PayPal and Cash App. Or send check or money order to Hannah Hopkins Ministries, P.O. Box 17405, Hattiesburg, Mississippi 39404.
If you're just joining us for the second part of the show today, my guest is Dr. Robert Thompson. He is assistant professor at William Carey University. And I'm just so happy to have him here today because we're talking about something that might sound minute, but it's very important. We're talking about the importance of eating and fellowshipping together. Now, when you were young, did your family eat together?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. What did that mean to you?
You know, it gave stability. It grounded us, if that's a good word to use. It kept us, we knew that that was the expectation. My mother, I hate to say she didn't work because she did work, but we took in foster kids. She you know,
oh, wow.
We had 13 over the full span of time. But we would all sit down together, whether it was all, you know, our immediate family and the foster kids as such. But we all knew that that was the expectation for that night. We'd all sit down and we'd all, and Sunday meal, we would always have Sunday meal. Back then, I don't know if you remember, it was pot roast, right?
Yeah.
You put
it was
pot roast in the oven and we'd get home and the house would smell so good. And we would sit down and we would, and gosh, when you think about it, the Sunday dinner lasted more than, you know, it was hours that we'd be sitting at the table and it just was the time that we would just talk about the week. We would socialize. We would talk about what happened at church or what happened at school. But that was a wonderful time to visit and, you know, discuss what was going on in our lives. Right.
I can remember the time when I was young and we would eat together. And not only that, on holidays, we would go to our grandparents' house and my cousins and my aunts and uncles and my parents and my siblings, and we'd all get together and have a big feast during the Christmas holidays, Thanksgiving holidays. And that would be a time that family could connect, not just within your house, but family outside of the house could come together.
You know, we would have our meal at my grandparents, and inevitably, my grandfather would get up from the table and he'd go over and he would get the can of sorghum syrup, and he'd bring it over. You know where I'm going.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
He would bring it over to the table, and we always had biscuits left over from dinner, and they would take the butter, they'd mix it up with the sorghum syrup and put it on the biscuit.
Sounds good. You're making me hungry.
And that. Again, that was the time that the socializing started, the talking started. And that's what I'm talking about. Same thing that ties back to what happened with Wyndham. And maybe that was the impetus to get me to there. But I know I saw that, I witnessed that. And I just think that people are so quick to, okay, I've eaten, I'm good, I'm done, let's move on. There's more to it than just you know, taking care of the body. We need to move it beyond that.
That's exactly right. And statistics shows, I think there was a survey done in 2023 that when people eat together, if they are stressed out, it tends to help their mental thinking capacity.
It reduces stress.
Yes.
It and like I say, it makes oxytocin, what? Anyway, all of the positive chemicals are triggered within the body, and that is the thing that people are missing out on by rushing through, by not having that time, that quality time. But like I say, that family reunions are the same thing. If you go to a family reunion these days, you get there right before you eat, and as soon as everybody eats, everybody's getting up and leaving.
They're leaving.
That's not the point of the family reunion.
Reunion means to come together in unity.
If you're there to eat, you should eat before you come.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Let's socialize. Let's
Yeah.
get to see. I mean, half of these people I haven't seen in a year or more. And yet we're just sitting with our immediate family, and then they
Right.
may walk around right before it's over just to say goodbye.
Right. Well, let's find out what's going on in
Isn't
each
that
other's
the intent
lives.
of a family reunion?
That's what it
that we
is.
should come up and visit and socialize and
Absolutely.
get to.
Same thing with the class reunion.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we eat at class reunions, but after it's over, we don't spend a lot of time just sitting and talking and getting to find out. So what are you doing these days? You know,
And like I said, with the family reunion, so many times people now, they're picking up a box of Popeye's chicken and they're bringing that to the family reunion.
that's not cooking with love,
No,
is it?
I want Aunt Jack's, chicken and dumpling casserole.
Right, right.
That's what I'm there for.
want-
I can get Popeye's anytime.
Right. I want some turkey and dressing or chicken and dressing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we need to spend more time. Just take out some times out of your busy schedule to enjoy each other.
I think we need to get back to some basics. And I know it may sound old school to some of the younger demographic, but there's quality there.
It is.
And you look at, again, it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to connect, to socialize, to camaraderie, all of those components. And look at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
There's a reason why we have Thanksgiving.
Right,
It's to
right.
give thanks to the Lord for
That's
all of His
right.
many blessings.
That's right. When Squanto and all of them helped the Indians, when they came, the Indians helped the Pilgrims, they gave thanks that day.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know how to find wild game and do all of that stuff. So they said, let's give thanks for this. So we should be doing the same thing now.
And it shouldn't be once a year.
No, I agree.
We should be saying prayer before we have our meal.
Yes.
We're thankful for what God has given us. And it just amazes me how everything's designated down to one holiday.
Yes. We can do this as often. In fact, that's what we're going to go to next. We're going to talk about how the Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians, as often as you break bread together, you're remembering the death of Jesus. You're remembering the blood and how He was beaten on the cross.
Yep.
So and you don't have to wait until you go to church to break bread together in that aspect, do you?
No.
You can do communion at home.
Look at the Bible verse that says, if two or more are gathered in my name, I am present.
Yeah.
So why can't we sit down and we have a meal, and if we have our prayer, God is going to be there with us.
In the midst of us.
In
That's
the midst
right.
of us. And it's the same thing as what happened with, like we said, with the Lord's Supper.
Right.
He's going to be with us.
He's going to be with us. And we are remembering what He did for us when we do that.
Absolutely.
And when we get together and we do it with each other, we are appreciating each other and Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
The
And
Christ.
we're thankful to our Father for
Right.
providing the food and the many blessings that He's bestowed upon
That's
us.
exactly right. That's right. In fact, during the Lord's Supper, it reminds us of what He did, the suffering He went through, the beatings and the bruisings and the blood that was shed on the cross. And I think when we go to church and we take communion, we need to reflect back to that.
I don't think people do. You know, they go through the motion. I mean, I don't
understand
mean
what you're
offense.
saying. I understand.
I don't mean offense when I
Right.
say that, but I do feel like we go through it with a routine.
I think so
It has
too.
become a routine.
I think so too.
And we don't truly comprehend exactly like you said, the suffering, the passion that He went through,
the pain.
the pain, the agony.
Yeah.
And
And
you
He
know,
didn't turn back. He
No.
took it for us. Don't you think if we would think about that more often when we're tempted to sin, we would think about that and say, I can't do that because He paid too big of a price for
Absolutely.
my sins.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to people coming together at churches and other events, what are some of the ways that we can draw people together as individuals? What can we do? You and I, what can we do to draw people together? I know that's a question that we didn't discuss and we probably haven't thought about
I would
it.
say we need. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Be honest
okay?
with me.
When I worked with Wyndham, I had somebody that I worked with that did not I asked them if they ever had somebody that was non-white to their house. And they said, oh, well, they're not close to where I live or this, that, whatever. I said, but have you ever invited anybody? No. And that's the problem. We don't even try. It doesn't matter whether we're trying to bring them into our home, which I think they should. Start simply. Let's just go out to dinner. Maybe after church or, after class, if we're taking night classes or something along those lines, go have a cup of coffee. Just get to know one another. But this isolation and this separate food can bring us together.
It can.
And whether it's coffee, whether it's just going and having a soda, ice cream, anything along those lines.
Just to get a chance to sit down and talk and communicate.
Absolutely.
How do you get to know a person? You have to communicate with them.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't discriminate. We should all pull together because we can agree to disagree if we don't think the same way. But we're still coming together.
It's so easy to stay within your comfort zone.
It is.
But
it is.
We've got to learn to be one. Like we were talking about with Grace Temple. That is a rarity. Why is that a rarity today? It's 2024.
It's a new time, a new season, but we're still stuck in the past.
Absolutely.
Now, I've noticed you and I've observed you, and you just love on people of all caliber. Did you pick that up because you did a lot of traveling? Your parents were military.
We were military.
You're from the South, and that's different.
My best friend in Germany was Japanese. My ex was Japanese. I've been around a lot of different cultures growing up because we were military, Air Force, and we traveled a lot. But God, I would say, has bestowed me with a certain perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
When I was cruise director, I would always focus on the ones that were the outliers. Those
The
that were on the
loners.
fringe. Because the ones that are having a good time, they don't need a cruise director. It's the ones that are off to the side that needs some help.
Some help. This has just been such a pleasure talking with you.
Is our time up already?
Our time is up. Can you believe that?
Wow, that was quick.
Yes, it was quick. But if you don't know Jesus today, and you're there, you're watching, and you're saying, how can I love people when I've been so hurt in my life? I've been through so much, and people have done so many things to me, and I just don't know how I can love everybody. If you get to love Jesus, if you fall in love with Jesus, he'll teach you how to love everybody else. So if that's you today and you're not saved, you don't have a relationship with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, I want you to dial the number that's on the screen. I want to pray with you. I want to introduce you to Christ. I want you to understand that there is hope, there's love, and you have a destiny and you have a purpose. And I just thank God for you talking today and explaining to the people that we need to be more inclusive in what we do. We do. And until this time next week, this is Hannah Hopkins with Lifting You Higher TV Minister saying, you be blessed.